Sorry guys, uh, back for part two. Sorry, but I was doing my video and I got kind of interrupted. That's alright, it's all good, it's all good. Right, so where was I going with this? Right, so I was talking about, before I went into the whole doctor thing in the previous video, I was talking about the modern day slavery, because in my British Black Men Part 3, I talked about modern day slavery in the description, right? So what is this modern day slavery? What is it? Because I don't know what you're talking about, Luke. Like, what does it mean? The first thing I want to start off with, the first where first modern day slavery is that's quite visible is jail. In America, for example, prime example in America is there's a lot of innocent black men in jail. Okay, I was watching some video the other day. He claimed 3% of black men in jail are innocent. I would say it's a lot more than that. Say it's a lot more than that. Reggie, an English reporter, went out to America, and the way they're handing out sentences in America is no different than parking tickets. They have to get a certain amount of parking tickets out. They need to in order to generate money. Okay, so it's a scam in itself, putting people in jail, and it just accumulates and it accumulates and it accumulates, and you could end up doing time in jail over a parking ticket. And the reason why you were pulled over is because of the color of your skin. So the whole system in America is wrong, but it goes deeper than that. It goes deeper than that because in America, which again I'm not a fan of Michi X, but Michi X talked about, when I was watching a couple of videos before she started getting too racist against whites and things like that, she was actually talking about how there's certain jails in America that have become privatized, and what that basically means is that now you've got these private companies that own these jails, and they've basically got people they've got people doing slave labor, the same way they've got people doing slave labor in China making these shoes. One moment guys. The same way you got slave labor in places like China and Japan or whatever those places are, they're doing slave labor for 2 p.m. an hour. I was watching some coffee thing the other day, like these kids are going into the mountains to get these coffee beans and they're earning like £4 a day and things like that. Same way those kind of things is happening is the same way how the American prison system has been set up now, so that you got these slaves doing slave labor in there, majority of them being black. Okay, and they were saying that in order to make a 10-minute phone call, these slaves have to work for 3 hours to make a 10-minute phone call. Okay, it may not even been 10 minutes, it could be a 3-minute phone call. And the reason why is because after they're done doing the slave labor, the phone charges in itself are through the roof, both ingoing and outgoing. It's through the roof. Okay, almost like you're down in some sort of porn line. That's the kind of price it is in order to make a phone call. And the majority of these people are black. Okay, and like I said, in America, like this judge was saying, no, it's only 3% of the people that are innocent and 97%. No, he's a coon as part of the system as well, because that's not, it's worse than that. This whole system in America is designed for you to fail. Okay, so where was I going for it? Over here now in the UK, it works slightly different, because over here there isn't that much privatization thing. However, we do know that black people still get harsher sentences, harsher fines, and longer sentences. Okay, and they're more likely to be sentenced than their white counterparts or whatever. One thing I do want to say, and it's important I say this as well about the modern day slavery, and again, black people need to check, because I was having a conversation with this guy the other day. I'm a black African guy, and it's important that I say this actually, because he's a bit of a coon. It's sad that I was speaking to someone, say 20 years older than me, and he was speaking like a coon, almost like an Uncle Tom, because we were talking about how black people are subliminally being brainwashed, and they're not really too clued up on what's happening. This ties into this video because that's, ties into it. And what was he saying? Right, so he was saying, and we were talking about basically how sometimes he was saying that we'll have a black store and you'll have an Indian store, hair store, but they'll rather go into the Indian store, black people, to buy black hair from the Indian store rather than buy it from their own people. But then at the same time, he turns around and he says to me that black Africans are the only true Africans, and unless you're from a unless you're a black African, then you're not black. This is the same guy that turns around and says this to me. Okay, so he's saying to me that black people are being basically controlled by white people, but then he turns around and says to me that and then Jamaicans and Grenadians and all of the Caribbean islands aren't really black, they're white. This is the mentality that this guy has. Okay, so without even knowing it, he's a coon. Okay, and then you listen to I was listening to a speaker in America, and he's a black guy, and he's saying that black African Americans are the only true black African Americans. Okay, then I'm listening to these coon Israelite people, and they're talking about they're the only black Israelites their sect of Africans are the only true. Unless you're from African descent, then you're not truly African. Jamaicans aren't Africans. If an African man has sex with a white woman, then the child is still black. But if a black woman has sex with a white man, because it's the seed that makes the child the color, the origin, all of this kind of nonsense, then if a black woman has a child with a white man, then it's not black because the father is who dictates the color. I've never met. It's scary when the people we look up to for guidance are so messed up by the system themselves, cooning and buck dancing and doing all of this stuff for their suppressors, that they become so traumatized that the information they're giving out is causing black people to run along the streets and kill each other. And that's what I told this guy as well. I said, I can't believe you're saying these things, because you don't understand that this is what's causing the division. And he himself said the best, that is the best way to conquer is to divide and conquer us. But he himself then understands that his mentality and his ideologies are cooning mentalities. Basically, it's divide and conquer. But getting back anyway, there's a few black people out there that are telling the younger generation, you're not a man until you've been to jail. Heard it from a few white people as well. Wasn't too concerned about them, because white people don't really need to be in jail in the first place. So how are you going to tell me, a white person tell me, that me as a black person won't be a man until I go to jail? How is a white person going to tell me I'm not going to be a man until I've gone to jail? I've never heard so much ludicrous BS in my life. Okay, and I'm not one of those ignorant black people. I like to think. I'm a thinker. I'm not the fastest thinker in the world, but I can think for myself, and I'm not stupid. Okay, white person is not going to encourage me to go to jail. But when there's black people out there doing it, saying you're not a man until you've been to jail, check your knowledge, check fact. What did they say? What's the word? Receipts. That's the new term for the younger generation. Get a receipt on that, okay? Because jail, when you go to jail, you lose your liberty, okay? If you lose your liberty, okay, then you're a slave. You're, by definition, check it out for yourself, when you go to jail and your liberty is taken from you, your liberty, your ability to get up when you want to get up, do what you want to do, someone goes to touch you, get your hands off me, don't touch me, and all of that. That's liberty, okay? No one can invade your personal space, yeah? When you go to jail, your liberty is taken from you. You become a slave. So black people out there saying to other black kids, you're not a man until you've been to jail. We've done 300-400 years of being slaves, okay? Think about what you're encouraging the younger generation to be, okay? You're not a man until you've been to jail. How the hell does that make sense? Or only a man can survive in jail, whatever it is. It's encouraging Whichever way you look at it, it's a dialogue that's encouraging. I watched this video where there was these Latinos and Mexicans, and they were purposely getting put in jail so that they could meet these Latino and Mexican gang lords, and then they could get promoted in jail. So most likely, and that would sometimes that would involve them killing another person in jail. They get promoted, and then when they come outside of jail, because these crime lords control the streets from inside of jail, when they come outside of it, the crime lords would promote them, and they could then start, dictating to other Latinos what they're doing on the street. Let them do what they want to do. Okay, black people have been in slavery for 300 to 400 years. The last thing we want to do is be going back into jail. Okay, so I hope that kind of, because the jail system is really important. I got that out of the way. Social housing. There was one stage in America where black people, I think it was early 1920s, 30s, 40s, where they weren't even allowed to buy houses. And what they said was, because of that, and the houses were so cheap back then, is that because they were prevented from buying it, white people then started buying up all the houses. And then I think several years later, or was it decades later, when they finally could start to buy houses, the prices were like 10 times what most white people paid for. Do the history on it. Over in this country, again, it's a different thing. It's we're in very poor areas, denied adequate housing. Some of the houses that are in aren't hygienically, they're not fit for purpose and things like that. So housing, jobs. I said in one of my videos that, yeah, we can go for a McDonald's job, but I'm talking about real jobs, because there's a couple of black people out there that think that it's fair and everything else. Again, I don't know. There's certain black people that they're denying that no matter how much racism they experience or see, they want to deny it. I've never seen anything like it. I've even got a few of them that I know that are very close to me, I grew up with, or some even in my family, and I don't know how they do it, or I don't know, it's almost like they've been hypnotized or something. How can you not see racism? How can, like Candace Owens, I've never seen anything like it in my life. I've never seen anything like it in my whole entire lifetime. Okay, even if I had white people that were nice to me and offered me cars and Lamborghinis and gave me expensive houses, I could never denounce racism. Sorry, I could never denounce white supremacy or white privilege. I could never denounce that. They said to me, listen, I'll give you £1 million to say that it's okay. So then when I see black people doing it for free, I'm like, for free? Like, really? So yeah, jobs, promotions, like I said already, medical care. Okay, I don't even trust doctors, and this is the God's honest truth. When I go to a doctor now, I will go onto the internet and I will make sure to first check. Although people say, oh, you can't trust the internet, you can't trust doctors either. I will first check. I'll type in my symptoms online and see what comes up from a forum. You can go to multiple forums, and that's how I diagnosed my Achilles tendon, because I went to multiple forums, typed in my symptoms, went to multiple forums, and then I went to my doctor. Because doctors, what they do is they dismiss you. That's the first thing they always do, is dismiss it. They'll wait for you to come back on your third attempt, and then they'll listen to what you have to say. But immediately they'll say to you, oh, no, there's nothing wrong, just go home, put a bit of nice on it. Or they'll say to you, stay away from it for 6 weeks. That's 101 of most doctors. Okay, so I go online, I diagnose it myself, and what I've realized is you have to be very firm with them. You have to kind of turn into a bit of a Negro with them. You have to get very affirmative and very stand strong with them. Sometimes get a little bit kind of aggressive with them, because the institutionalized racism means that when they're, just like certain black people don't realize when they're cooning, there's certain white people that don't realize when they're kind of being racist towards you and depriving you of certain things that your white counterparts immediately have. Okay, they save the best for their own kind of thing, and sometimes you have to turn into that kind of aggressive guy, start wilding out on them for them to actually take you seriously, and that goes in every aspect of it. You know, that's why when I got certain buddies these days talking about we're done with talking now, you know, now it's time to start kind of demanding and start kind of, you know, something needs to be done now. We're tired of the talking now. Now it's time to start doing. I agree with them because, and this ties in. I'm going to do one more video, and my last video is going to be towards our black women, because I know it seems like I've slagged them off for a few videos now, but the reality is that I love my black women. My mum's black, and you know, I truly do love black women. I love you know, the fact that you know, where would we be if it weren't you? You know, you've had to do a lot of it by yourselves. You know, I'm not gonna take my black men out of it and say that, you know, that some of them haven't been done over by black women, because some of them have. But the real enemy is the system. You know, and that's what we're going to get into in part 3. I'll see you around for the last part. Thank you for watching. Sorry about the video, it's gotten dark and everything. Stay with me. Peace.